Welcome or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to go ahead and go through my 2026 TBR and anticipated releases. And then I also have 8 or 9 books that I have unhauled since my last video of what I read from July to September. So yeah. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into my TBR for 2026. So I have my reading goal set for 36 books, so about 3 books a month next year, but I've only picked out 24 books because I'm hoping that I can go in with my mini books here during those months and pick an extra maybe 1 to 2 books so I can try and read 3 to 4. Plus, I do know that I will be doing my book club reads next year, so maybe in the months that I am doing the book club read, I'll just pick 1 book, and then the months I decide not to do the book club read, I'll pick 2 books, but we'll see. But for my 2026 TBR, for the 24 books that I picked myself, I went through and I first picked my top 12, so the first book you see for each month is one of my top 12 books that I wanted to read next year, and then the second book for each month are 12 that I randomly picked off of a TBR wheel that I have that I made on like Google, whatever the thing is. So I'll insert like a video clip of me going through and doing that. I know in the first clip that I took, the first 4 books I did off screen recording, and then the rest of the books I did on screen recording, and then I took those 12 books that I got from there and I put them into a second wheel and I spun the wheel to get them into the month order. So I spun the wheel for January, February, so on. So yeah. Okay, so the first book I have on my TBR for 2026 is The Art of Deception by Maddie Goldgronk. I believe I mentioned this in my last video where I hauled a bunch of books and I also reorganized my bookshelves, that I had ordered this on pre-order from Barnes & Noble, but I hadn't had the physical copy of it yet, but I got the physical copy in, so I put this one on as the first book I want to read in January, and I'm very excited for this one. Sorry, I'm putting them back on my TBR cart as well. And then I have the picture of Dorian Gray. This one's the uncensored picture of Dorian Gray. I have like the normal one back there. But I am going to read this one. This is one of the ones that was on the wheel that I mentioned previously that I spun and it got picked for January. So I'm very excited to read this one. This is one that I've been wanting to read for quite a while. So I'm very excited to get into that. And both of those books for January are, as far as I know, dark academia books. I know the Picture of Dorian Gray is also kind of considered a classic, so there's that one. And then February, the first book I have is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. This is the last Magnolia Parks book in the Magnolia Parks series, and I'm very excited to read it. I think I'm finally ready to read it after The Long Way Home destroying me. And I did read The Great Undoing, I think, end of last year. So I took a kind of a year break from her, but I'm very excited to get into this one and to finish out BJ and Magnolia's story. And then I have The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. This is one that's been sitting on my TBR for quite a while, and I just wanted to read it. So this was the one that was picked for February from the wheel. I can't quite remember what this one is about, but I'm very excited. I'm pretty sure it's set in Italy, so I'm very excited about that one. And then I have for March, the first one I have in March is Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. This is one that I saw Heather McClary read, and she really loved it, and she recommended it, so I picked it up. I think she had also recommended Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney as well, which I read earlier this month, so you'll see that in my wrap-up for October through December. But this one I heard is very good, very intrigued by this one, and I know it's going to be more on the gory horror side, so I'm very excited to get into that because I do like that in my books. And then I have The Rumor by Ellen Hildebrand. I think this one is set in Nantucket. I think most of her books are set in Nantucket, but this is going to be my first Ellen Hildebrand, so I'm very excited to get into this one. I do have The Academy by her and her daughter as well, but This one I'm excited to get into, especially in March, because I know in March I'm going to be kind of sick of the winter and ready for some spring summer vibes. So I'm very excited for this one. And then in April, the first one I have is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. So I read in September Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I went and I picked up Hellbent. And I know the third one, I forget what the name of the third one is. I'll put it in my anticipated releases part of this video. But the third one for the Alex Stern series does come out this year, so I'm also very excited for that. So I'm hoping I can kind of read this and then pick up the third book maybe in another month this year or in 2027. But I do have Hellbent for April to read, and I'm excited to continue Alex Stern's story and see if they can kind of pick up where they left off in Ninth House. And then I have You Deserve Good Gelato by Casey Rose. This is a memoir that my mom actually got for me last Christmas, and I just haven't read it yet. So I'm very excited to read this one, and I'm pretty sure this is about like just a girl traveling the world and learning how to live life on her own and all of that good stuff. So I'm very excited to read this one. And then in May, I am picking up Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This will be the first book I pick up by Ali Hazelwood. This is such a gorgeous edition that I got, but I'm very excited to read this one and get into Ali Hazelwood. I've heard very mixed things about this one, honestly, so I'm kind of excited to see where I'll fall, if I'm not going to like it or if I'm going to be one of the ones that loves it. So I'm excited for that one. And then I have My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I have read so far 2 books by him. I've read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, which I absolutely loved, and I've also read the Final Girl Support Group by him, which that one was okay, not my favorite, but I'm very excited to read more of his work, so I'm excited to get into this one. And then in June, I have the first book I'm going to read is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've heard very good things about this. I know if you like Criminal Minds, you're going to like this, and I am a huge fan of Criminal Minds. Hopefully you can't hear it in the background, but if you can, that's what I'm watching right now is Criminal Minds. I'm on like my 4th or 5th watch of it, but I'm very excited to get into this and see if it really is just like Criminal Minds. Well, not just like, but like similar to it. And then I have My Policeman by Beth Ann Roberts. This is the second book I'm going to read in June. I honestly don't know what this is about other than it's set in the 1950s and it's, I believe, a romance, maybe, but I'm very excited to get into it. And then in July, I have Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This is a bit of a thicker one. However, I'm very excited to get into this. This is one of the ones I bought this year, trying to get into dark academia fantasy. And so far, as I can say, for next year, it's a bit heavy on the dark academia, especially towards the end of the year, which I'm not mad about. But I'm very excited to get into this one. I know she goes to, I don't remember what the school is, but she goes to work with this scientist who's working on this like parasite type thing that killed her mom, basically. So she can try and figure out like what happened with that. And I'm very excited to read that one. And then the second book I have for June or July is Before We Were Innocent by Ella Berman. This one is a mystery thriller, I want to say. Can't quite remember. I think I might have had it on my fiction shelf, but I think it actually is a mystery thriller, but I'm very excited to get into this one as well. For August, the first book I have is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This is going to be my first book by him. I also want to get My Friends by him because I did hear that one's good as well, but I think I'm going to like this one, so I'm going to start with this one by him. I forget what this one's about also, but this one also sounded really interesting to me when I first heard about it. And I have heard really good things about this. So I'm very excited to get into this one. And then maybe I might get into the Beartown series. I don't know yet. But it is kind of up my alley because I do like hockey. So we'll see. And then the second memoir I have for 2026 is going to be The Unseen Body by Jonathan Reisman, MD. This one's basically just about like your body and how it like kind of correlates and represents with different ecosystems. So I'm very excited to read this and get into this one. And then September, I wanted to see when the Project Hail Mary movie was coming out to maybe read this before that movie came out, but I think I might just leave it in September to read it and then just watch the movie after. But anyways, I have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is the third book, and I think he only has 3 books out. So this is actually the last book by him that I have to read. I have read The Martian and I have read Artemis by him as well. I read both of those before I started this channel and before I started like really documenting all of this. So I'm very excited to read this. I do like his writing and I have heard good things about this. But I haven't heard a lot of things because I don't think a lot of people have read it, but now that the movie is coming out, I think more people are picking it up, so I'm very excited to get into this one. And this one is a sci-fi, which I do like sci-fi. And then the second book I have for September is Never by Jessa Hastings, so a second book by her in 2026. This one is basically just a Peter Pan retelling, and from what I've heard from her and other people, it's different. So the version that we know of Peter Pan is not the version that she wrote, but either way, I'm very excited to get into this one and to read this one by her. And then October, the first book I have is Soul Searching by Lila Sage. So I did buy this October to read it. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to get to it, so I thought it would be perfect to get to it in October next year because this one is about a girl and it's a romance between is it Brady and Collins? Yeah, Brady and Collins, and I believe Collins can see ghosts. So I thought that was really cool and a really fun aspect to put into this. So I'm excited to get into that one. And then I have A First Time for Everything by K.L. Walther. So I have this one and her other book, While We're Young, on my 2026 TBR. And she is coming out with 2 new books in 2026 as well, which I'll also get into in my anticipated releases. But this is, I've read 3 of her 5 books that she has out currently. So I started with The Summer of Broken Rules in 2024. And I very much enjoyed The Summer of Broken Rules. I think I gave it a 5 stars when I read it, if not very close to a 5-star. And then I read Maybe Meant to Be, which I think I gave like a 4 or 4.5 star, which that one was very good. And then I read What Happens After Midnight as well, and I also gave that a high rating. So I'm very excited to get into this one and see where her writing takes us. And I do know that all of her books are within the same universe, I guess, because there are a lot of crossover characters between books. And then this is where it starts to get a bit dark academia heavy. So November, the first book for November is Immortal Dark by Tegist Girma. So this is one that I've also recently picked up as well as the next book that I'm going to show. But I also saw Heather McClary read this book, and she liked this book, and then I didn't know it, but she read Eternal Ruin, which is the second book to this book, and she liked that one even more than she liked this one. So I'm going to read this one, and then hopefully I can maybe get to Eternal Ruin if I like this one enough, but I'm very excited to get into this one. This one has to do with vampires and secret societies and, well, I don't know about secret societies, but definitely has to do with vampires and all of those things, so I'm very excited to get into that. And then I have House of Rain by Harley LaRue. I believe this is a newer release. I want to say it came out this year. I also saw Heather McClary reading this one as well. Yep, this one came out this year. I saw Heather McClary reading this one as well, and she really liked it, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, she said it opens with like a dead deer carcass, and that kind of piqued my interest. And then she said, I think that there's like an angel or something in this one as well that's kind of like haunting this town and like cursing this town. And I thought that was very cool and very interesting, so I honestly picked it up just because of those 2 things, and I'm very excited to get into it. And she did like this one a lot as well, and I've heard good things about this one as well, so I'm very excited for that one. And then, like I mentioned with the last K.L. Walther book I was talking about, I do have While We're Young here as the first book for December that I want to read, and this one is actually, from what I've heard, it says it right here on the back. It says, inspired by Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So I'm very excited to get into that one because I do like that movie. I obviously didn't take my Target sticker off of that. Oops. I'll have to take that off. But yeah, I'm very excited to get into this and see how similar it is to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And then the last book that I have picked for 2026 is The Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. This one is a movie currently, and it is nonfiction, and it's about FBI agents and something that they did. So I'm very excited to get into this one. Okay, so these are the books that I am unhauling, that I went through on my bookshelf, and I have decided to unhaul because I'm either not going to ever read them again, or I just simply don't want them anymore. I really don't have an interest in reading them. I'm sure I'll end up going through my bookshelf again at some point because I'm not sure if I'm going to keep my Taylor Jenkins Reads books, but we'll leave those for now. But the first one I have to unhaul is the Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I think I talked about this a few months ago in one of my wrap-up videos, because I did DNF this book, so I am going to be getting rid of it because I don't ever see myself coming back to this book or this series to read it. I'm just not interested in it anymore, so there's that one. And then this was one of my book club reads from this year. I have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. I think I gave this a 4 stars. I might have given it less, but it's honestly just not, oh, that's where those are, just not one of those books that I feel myself going back to and that I want to keep on my shelf. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this one. It was good, I just don't think that it was 100% for me. And then I have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, which I did read this one and I did like it. I did give it, I think, like a 4.25 or 4.5 stars. However, again, I just don't think I'm ever going to go back and read it. And I know there's a ton of people that want to be reading this book. So if I can donate it to like my half price books or somewhere where somebody else can pick it up and read it, that's going to enjoy it and keep it, I'd rather do that. Because I just don't see myself ever reading it again, even though it was a good book. And then I have Pineapple Street by Jenny Jackson. This is one that has been sitting on my shelf for like 2.5 years at this point. And I had seen a couple of people read it. I think I saw Destiny Sidwell read it. And she was really like not a fan of it. And then I was like reading the back of it because I did like go through and read the backs of some of the books that I hadn't read yet, to see if maybe they were worth keeping if I was actually like interested in reading them. And then I was reading the back of this one and I just wasn't interested in it, so I decided that this one's gonna go. And then I have some hardbacks here. So I have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is one of the ones that when I had my book of the month subscription, I just picked it and picked it up because I didn't like any of the other books on the list. And personally, I don't know if I really liked the synopsis of this one either. And I read the synopsis in this one and I was kind of like, I don't really want to read it. So I'm going to get rid of this one as well. Even though I have heard good things about it, I just don't think that I want to read it. And I have realized that a lot of my mystery thriller books lean either towards like dark academia, or they're leaning towards like they need to be like super horror, like more towards the horror genre for me to really like them and really enjoy them. Otherwise, I kind of just don't like them. And then I have Lisa Joel's None of This Is True. Again, same thing as Listen for the Lie. It was a book of the month book. It was the one that was interesting to me. Picked it up thinking I was gonna read it a lot sooner than I have, and I read like the synopsis of it and I was kind of like, I don't really want to read this one anymore, so I'm getting rid of that one as well. And then this one, First Lie Wins, I just read this recently as well. This one's by Ashley Elston. I did like this. I think I gave it a 4 star. Yeah, I think I gave it a 4 star. But honestly, I've been using audiobooks for a lot of books recently, and I'm starting to feel like I'm using audiobook too much. So I'm thinking that using audiobook is affecting how I feel about these books. So I don't think that this one's a true 4-star, but I also don't think it's a true 3-star. It might be like a 3.5. But I mean, this one was good. I didn't see the twists coming in it. I just don't think I'm ever going to pick it up again to read it. So I'm going to get rid of this one as well. But I do need it for my October to December wrap up. And then I have The Intern here by Michelle Campbell. I read this one last year in 2024. I think I gave it somewhere between a 3 and a 5-star. I honestly can't remember what I gave it. But it was good when I read it. I just don't think I'm ever going to get back to it and pick it up again, even though I do like legal thrillers, but I think I like John Grisham more than I like anybody else, so I'll probably read John Grisham if I'm reading a legal thriller, which I do have 5 of his books that I want to get to at some point from my mom's collection. And then the last one I have here is Middle Tide by Sarah Crouch. This one was about a girl, I think it was a girl, who got murdered. Yeah, it was a doctor. She got murdered outside of this author's house and was basically like murdered in the way that this author had described in his previous book, and all of the details match it. So he's kind of like under investigation for like being the one that murdered her, and he's like trying to figure out who it was that actually did it, because it obviously wasn't him that did it. But I just, like I said, another book of the month one that I picked, I just don't see myself reading it anytime soon, and I don't see myself gravitating towards picking this up to read it anytime soon, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one as well. And I think those are all the books as of now that I'm unhauling. Like I said, probably sometime next year, like maybe halfway through next year or something like that, I will be probably going through my books again and unhauling some books, because I know that there's some other books here sitting on my shelf that I know if I either don't get to by midway next year, or if I'm still like thinking about like getting rid of them because I'm not really a fan of them, I will probably get rid of them. But yeah, as of now, those are the ones that I'm unhauling, and I will get into my anticipated releases. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and go through my anticipated releases for 2026. I have my iPad here with all of them on here. I went through quite a few Goodreads lists and quite a few other lists, even like on Barnes & Noble and different websites, trying to find a lot of books that were coming out next year. I think I found most of them that were coming out, but as I was going through those lists, I kind of screenshotted and wrote down the ones that I am excited for. So the first one I have is My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. I honestly didn't read any synopses for any of these books. I just looked at them and thought that they were interesting. So yeah. So I put Alice Feeney's new book on here because I do like her writing. And I do want to pick up her book, Beautiful Ugly, and read that one, because I did just read Rock, Paper, Scissors by her, and I did really enjoy her writing in that, and I did enjoy her storytelling, so I am excited to get Beautiful Ugly and read that, and then hopefully I can pick up this one as well and read it. And then I have The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. I always say Allie, but I do still plan to get Say You'll Remember Me by her as well. I'm just waiting for it to come out in paperback. So a lot of the books that I wanted to get this year that were coming out were all coming out in hardback, and I'm not the biggest hardback fan. If I like get to the point where I really want to read it and I can't wait, I will just go get the hardback. But as of right now, all of the books that I was waiting for to come out this year, such as like My Friends, Say You'll Remember Me, and a few other ones. I think Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I'm not sure if I'm still going to get that one. And then there were a couple of other ones that I wanted to get that are all coming out in paperback in 2026, that I'm just going to wait for paperback for. But this is the second one in her Say You'll Remember Me world. I did read Just for the Summer by her this summer, and I ended up absolutely loving that book. It was so close to a 5-star, but it just didn't hit the 5-star mark for me, but it was very good, and I did enjoy her writing, and yeah, so I think I'm going to pick that one up as well, but I'll probably also wait for that one to come out in paperback. And then I have The First Time I Saw Him by Laura Dave. I want to say this, it says this is Unhaul 2, so I want to say this is the second book after The Night We Lost Him, but I honestly don't know. I just like saw this book and I thought that I did read the synopsis for this one, however, I do forget what it's about, but I thought it was interesting, so I think I'm picking that one up as well. And then I have Just Friends by Haley Pham. She's another YouTuber that I watch on here, but hers is like kind of like a second chance romance kind of thing, and it is childhood friends to lovers, so I'm excited to read that. So I will pick that one up, and that one I think comes out in the spring. And as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Hellbent, the third Alex Stern book comes out this year, and that one's called The Deadbeat. Originally it was supposed to come out in the spring, but now it looks like it's September of 2026 that it's coming out, and there is not a cover yet for this one, so I don't know what the cover is going to look like. But she has like the little like cover that they use before the actual cover comes out, where it just says like the title and when it's coming. So this one says it's coming in September, so I'm hoping when this one comes out it'll be in paperback. Otherwise I will probably be waiting to get the paperback, or I'll just read it in hardcover and then get the paperback at some other point in time, because I do feel like this one is going to be one of those ones that I do want to pick up right away when it comes out, especially since I'm reading Hellbent in April. So yeah. And maybe it'll come out sooner than September, we'll see. And then I have We Were Never Friends by Kara Ruda. This one is about a sorority, a group of sorority sisters. And I just thought that this one was interesting. I don't know if this is her first novel or if she's had novels before that, but I read this and I liked the premise of it, so I want to get that one as well. And then while I was going through Barnes & Noble's list, there weren't a lot of things that were catching my eye on Barnes & Noble, but I did find The Resurrectionist by A. Ray Dunlap. And this one's kind of about from what I can remember, it's about like this grave digger, grave robber, and like him and this guy that he or she's working for, and like what they're doing, like when they go and grave rob and dig up these bodies and what they're doing, that kind of thing. So I was kind of excited to read this one. This one I think is like a dark academia horror kind of book, so I was looking at that one and I thought that would be an interesting read. I, however, don't know when this one is coming out either. But yeah. Okay, so I do have 3 or 4 books on my Amazon list that I like never screenshotted to put into my actual list or anything. So I have 2 K.L. Walther books, which I kind of briefly mentioned earlier when I was talking about wanting to read her 2 books that I haven't read yet. So I have We're a Bad Idea Right by her, and I honestly can't remember what this one is about. I don't even think I read the synopsis of it. I just know that if it's K.L. Walther, I'm buying it because I know I'm gonna like it. And then I have The Summer of Second Chances, which actually I didn't know until I saw her post something about it, or I saw something about it. This is actually a second book. I don't want to say it's the second book, but it is basically the second book after The Summer of Broken Rules, and it deals with a lot of the same characters and things that are happening with them. So I'm very excited to get into that one, considering The Summer of Broken Rules was a 5-star read for me. Okay, so those were all of the books on my 2026 TBR, as well as my anticipated releases for the year and a little bit of a book unhaul. I did do screen recordings of me picking the books like I had talked about in the beginning. However, when I tried to put them into the video, it didn't quite work out how I thought it was going to work out. So I'm just leaving that out, but I do still explain how I went and chose the second book for each month in this video. But yeah, that's everything on my TBR for 2026. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.